Hello and welcome to another Fourth Dimension Studios video tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to make an atomic bomb a bit like this one. Now it was originally done by Fabien Weibel at fweibel.com, but it's very complicated and hard to understand for beginners, so I thought, since I struggled with that tutorial myself, I thought I would help some other beginner who wanted to do that tutorial but couldn't because it was so complicated and advanced. So this is the website it's from, fweibel.com. I've got the permission from the site owner, and he makes little projects and amazing little videos that you can see here. Here are some of the ones that he's made. It's atomic bomb. I'm not sure what that is. He's made a little animation called Freddy's World. But make sure you check out the site because it's really good for not only tutorials but inspiring clips. So yeah, open up Blender and delete the default cube. Now the first thing we need to do is go into the Shadings tab and add new texture, but you'll see that you can't add new texture for some reason. That is because it's for the particular object that you've selected, which obviously we haven't selected an object. So click on the World tab and it'll apply a texture for every object that you have, so that you can use them in different objects without having the same material. So if you create a new texture and call this one Clouds, we can then set the noise size to 1.814 and then the brightness under colors to 1.379 and the contrast to 3.28. Now these textures are going to be the displacement of the clouds and the gas that you'll see. So we need to make we're not going to actually model out the individual lines inside the clouds, as that would take. It wouldn't actually take that long, but having to do it for every keyframe, that will take some time. So if you go into the texture and call this Display1, so obviously this is the displacement number 1, then click on this little tab here and click Add New and call this one Display2. Now this one is a Voronoi, or however you pronounce that. I should really look it up, shouldn't I? Have I said that before in another tutorial? Oh well, I haven't looked it up, so I'm just going to go with Voronoi. Just don't think it's probably French or something. Anyway, it's the size is 0.462 and the brightness is 1.32 and the contrast is 1.8. Now we need to create another texture. This is going to be called Display3. Now this is another Voronoi, but it's completely different. So we need to change. All we need to do on this one is change the brightness to 0.744 and the contrast to 1.993. So once we've done that, we can actually make the shockwave and the plane that the shockwave is going to be on, which is like the ground. So click spacebar, add mesh plane, and click S to scale it up to about that size. It's going to be quite big to get the perspective alright. It's got to be quite large. So then we're going to make add an object called a torus. So I think you need Python for this, which you should already have, but if you don't think you already have it, Google Python and you need to download that and install it. So add a mesh and call this a torus. we can actually keep all these defaults the same, as the modifiers are gonna, or the displacement modifiers are gonna change all this for us. So the major radius is 1, the minor radius is 1/4, the major segments is 48, and the minor segments is 16. So click OK. And again, we need to scale this up. So you can see it's kind of like a ring or a donut shape. Now we need to create the animation from frame 100 to frame 400 so it gets bigger. So we can do this by going to frame 400 and click I, Scale, and then go to frame 100 and click S0, enter I, Scale. So the pressing I, Scale actually creates a keyframe so that when you go forward in time, you can see that the torus gets bigger. So if you right click in between these two windows here and click Split Area and bring the cursor to about here, it'll create two windows here, so you could, if you wanted to, have a view here and have a view here. But for now we're actually going to change it from a 3D view to an IPO-curve editor. So we can see how the curve actually grows. So you'll see it starts off going slowly and then gets bigger and then slows down as it gets even bigger, if you know what I mean. So it's quite good and handy for editing the speed, because obviously we don't want a nice easy atomic bomb. So we want it to come in quite quickly and then slowly fade out. So if we select the X and Y axis and click by pressing the X axis and then shift left click on the Y axis, and then you'll see that these buttons are pressed in. You actually have to press them twice, sorry, I didn't realise that. So you click on the Y axis and then you shift left click on the X axis one here. No, you don't have to press them twice. Just press them as many times until they get actually pushed in, because these are little buttons. So click Tab, A, border select with B, this little handle here. So there's two handles here, so you can't just right click, otherwise you'll see two more lines than you want. So if you click G and you can bring it up like that, we actually want it to go about there, so you can see how it goes upwards really quickly and then slowly fades out again. And you'll see that we have another line here. Now this is the Z-axis, so if you click on the scale of the Z-axis and then click Tab, this time you don't have to border select them, as it's just the Z-axis. So if you click on this whole vertex, I don't know, it's the point, so click G and grab it, because we don't want this to go as tall as it is wide, so you can see it's kind of flatter. Now click on this handle and bring it up so that it actually kind of overlaps here, so it grows even faster than the Y and X axis and then slows down again. So if we play this through just by dragging our cursor across this area here, you can see how it goes really quickly and then it slowly fades out to a stop. You can also press Alt A to see what the animation looks like. Obviously without all the displacement modifiers, so click Escape to cancel that, or right click on it. Now we need to add these empties. So if your 3D cursor, which is this thing here, isn't right in the center, click Shift C and then C again. Now add an empty, and we can scale this up a little bit. It doesn't really matter because we are going to scale them up and down later, but just so you can see it a bit clearly, press S to scale it up and down. Now rename this empty to 1 by clicking on the Object tab, or F7, and click 1 here. Now we need to assign it to the same IPO curve as the torus. So to do that, just click on this. If we drag this, we can drag this window across. But to do that, we need to click on these two little arrows here and click Oblopo. I'm not actually sure what Oblopo stands for. It's probably object. Oh no, sorry. I think it's object interpolation or something. I'm not really sure, but oh no, object IPO curve. But yeah, I'm not sure what IPO stands for. Anyway, we also need to edit this a little bit, so to make the vertices so that the empty grows a little bit slower towards the end. So to do that, click on the x-axis, shift left click Y, shift left click Z. So now we've got all of them selected. Click Tab, A, B, select this, all these handles and points here, and click G. Just bring it down a little bit. Now you might want to edit this as well, these handles here as well. So border select these with B, then click G, and kind of bring these down a little bit like that. Then click Tab to go back into the normal mode. So you see that goes a little bit slower than the torus. Now we need to add another empty and call this 2, and then add another one and call this one 3. Now we need to add the modifiers to the torus. So right click on the torus and then go into the editing tab and click add modifier displace. Now this one is going to have a mid-level of 0 and the strength of 0.4. Change the local to object and change it to 1. Texture is display1, or the same texture as you named it before. Now if we click on number 1, or the empty number 1, we can actually scale it up and down to change how much it is affected. So we don't want it that much, otherwise it's going to be a bit confusing. So maybe about there. It's completely up to you. And then we also need to add a subsurf modifier. We should really have done this before, but click add modifier subsurf and click this little arrow here to bring it up to the top, so it's actually higher than, so the subsurf is actually done before the displacement. Add 2 levels of subsurf and click apply. We can also make this smooth as well, so you can have a look what it is like when it's nice and smooth. But for now we're just going to keep it as set solid. Now once we've added our displacement modifier, we need to add another displacement modifier. This one is going to be display2, and the mid-level is going to be 0, and the strength is going to be 0.1. We also need to make this select number 2 and make it a little bit bigger or smaller depending on how you like it. So if you keep right clicking in the center until number 2 comes up here or here. So click S and bring it up and down, and choose the number 1 and bring it up and down, because now you can see a little bit better what it'll actually look like. So you might even want it to be really rough, but if we do that you can actually see how the vertices are intersecting each other. So we probably want it about there, but we can always come back to it again in a minute. So right click on the torus again. We need to add another subsurf modifier. This time it's just going to stay there, we don't need to move it up, but we do need to turn optimal drawer on, and it will skip the rendering of the inside subdivided edges. We also need to put the render levels down to 1. So click Add Modifier, Displace. And to move up and down here, because you can actually see how it's missed off the screen here, you can click Alt and left click to move up and down. So this final texture, the final displacement is going to be Display 3. Mid-level 0 and the strength of 0.05. Change the object to 3. And I've just realised that we need to change the object here to 3 as well. No, object here to 2 on display 2. Now when we select the different empties, when you scale them up and down, it will make a difference. So you can see it makes a big difference there. And so if you select number 2 by just right clicking in the middle there, scale up 2 with S, and see how it makes a difference there. Now you might want to right click on the torus again and set this smooth, just to see what it looks like. You can either render it with smooth on or smooth off. It's completely up to you. I normally render with smooth on, but it completely depends on what the subject is. I think last time I made this I did put the smooth on, so I'm just going to leave it on now. But I would change size of 1, I think, to about there, and in my opinion that looks fine. You can render that. It will take a lot longer to render this. Well, not render it, but to draw it out, as it's quite a lot bigger. So you can see it's not just the same thing. It does actually change as it gets bigger. And it looks quite good. Now the next thing we need to do is the column. So if you click View Front and go back to frame 1 with this thing here. Okay, now add a cylinder. Click spacebar, add mesh cylinder. Change the vertices to 8 and make sure cap ends is off. Radius to 1, depth to 2. Click OK. Tab A, Control R, and use the scroll wheel until there's 8 pink lines. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this is where Blender will make cuts into the cylinder. So if you click the left mouse button, you can see all the clicks that it's made. So click A twice until all the vertices are selected, and click SZ until you get so it's about that size. Now add another modifier and call this one subsurf, and change it to level 2 and click apply. You have to click tab to get out of edit mode first and then click apply. Now we need to move it up a bit to about there. Now move forward to about frame 400 and then view front and scale it up to about the size that you want it. Now, as you can see, it's actually scaling from the center of the object, which we don't actually want. We want it to scale from the bottom. So if you move it to about there and click Shift C to center the cursor and then move around with Alt. Well, you should really know that if you've been doing this tutorial, but if you don't, I'm sorry I didn't explain that earlier. Then click Center Cursor here, and it'll actually move this 3D cursor, no, this object cursor into the center of the 3D cursor. So now when you scale it, it'll actually scale from the point of the 3D cursor. So scale it to about there. I think that's about right. And then click Tab, A to make sure all the vertices are deselected, and then right click on the top of the column, and then click Alt, right click, and if it goes down, click again. And if it goes in the wrong place, move your cursor and Alt, right click on the top until you get to that. Selected vertices are the top ring. Otherwise you could do border select, but that's a lot quicker if you know what you're doing. So now we need to use a thing called proportional editing. So if you click View Front and change proportional to on, and make sure it's the smooth fall off, which it should already be at default, but click S, and you can see how it doesn't just make that those selected vertices smaller. It actually makes a few vertices smaller within this cylinder here. But how do you make that cylinder bigger? Use the scroll wheel. So now you can see the cylinder can go bigger and smaller. And so you might want to do it again. This time maybe make the amount of vertices there. I don't know, it's up to you. But that looks okay. So you can see how it's bigger at the bottom than it is at the top. You might want to click A twice and then scale it all up, turn proportional editing off, and then scale along the Z-axis down to make it a little bit stumpier. If you view front, you can align it with the cursor. About there, and then click Tab, and you can see if that's what you want it to look like, which I think you do. You might want to make it a little bit bigger for now, but for now that's okay. And now we need to add the IPO curves again. So go to frame 400, which you should already be on, and then add a scale key with I, and then click Scale. Now you can go back to this IPO curve editor here, and then right along the Z-axis, the column should go up. Should go from 0 up to this point. So we also need to add a IPO key at frame 100 when it's size 0. So S0, then I scale. You can see how it gets bigger over time again. But again you can see how it's not right. So go into this and you can move around with Alt again, move up and down, and then select the axis here, and then click Z, the Z button, and click Tab, A, to deselect them all, and then right click on the handle, click G, and do exactly the same thing, and make it so that it's a much steeper here, and then with the Y and the Shift X axis, click Tab, A, B, and select this one here, and bring it up a little bit. Oh yeah, you need to select the whole thing, so click B, border select all these handles, bring it up to about there, click A, B, G, and change the curve to about that. Okay, so it climbs quickly along the Z-axis, but the X and Y axis only changes in size a little bit because it starts off as a ring from the beginning, which is fine. Now we need to do the same thing as the shockwave with the displacement modifiers, but this time we're going to add another empty with spacebar, add mesh, add empty. This is going to be 1.1. Now we need to use the same as the column, the same hypercurve as this column. So click this arrow thing, oblopo 001. Now we need to change the make it a single user, which I've just realised we didn't do before. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Change that to a single user, and then we need to make it grow slower again. The z-axis grows slower. So click on the Z, click Alt to move along, click Tab, A, B, select all of these, and click G, go back down to there. Click Alt, A, right click on this handle, G, down to here. This is probably going to be a very long tutorial, so sorry about that. That's why I keep forgetting about it, because I've actually got the tutorial notes here. So add another empty. Call this one 2.1. Add another hypercurve. This time the location should go up as well. So click I, go to from 100. You don't want to just click I anywhere randomly. It's from 100 and click I, location, scale. So that's a keyframe for the location and the scale. And then go to frame 400. And we actually need it to go a little bit higher than, or twice as high as the cylinder's top. Then add another location scale. Go back to frame 100 and click S0 to change the size to 0. So once we've done that, we can see how the scale goes, the location along the z-axis goes up and the scale should go down, but you need to add a key there as well. Now we also need to change it a little bit as well, so that the scale of the empty goes nice and smoothly again. So zoom in a little bit, right click on the z-axis and click Tab, A, B, make sure all of them are selected and bring it up a little bit. Click A, B, pull this up a little bit, and then for the X and Y axis click Tab, A, B, and bring this one up a little bit as well. So now that is animated as well. We also need to change the location as well. Okay, and then right click on this handle here and bring it up to about there, so it grows quicker again. And then we actually need to make sure it's always halfway above, or most of the time halfway above, because we can't make it perfect, but we can try our best. So that'll do. Add another empty. Now this one's going to be called 3.1, and make this the same as the last empty, and then make it a single user, pressing the 2, single user, and then it actually needs to climb 2 times slower than that empty. So if you click this on this here, we can see that that's 1, 2, and kind of 0.2. So if we just drag that down to about there, that'll do. Drag that here, like that. Okay, oops. Check that that's Okay, now we need to add another empty called 3.1. So click add empty and call this one 3.1. Now this needs to be the same hypercurve as 2.1, so assign that there. And it also needs to climb you need to make it a single user. And it also must climb 2.2 times slower than the other one. So right click on the location of this one and then bring it down about 2.2 times, so about there for me, to about there. So now you can see it's kind of about there, 3/4 of the way up on the cylinder or cone, but it's not really a cone, it's a column. Now I need to add some more displacements, so click add modifier displace. Now this is display 1. The mid-level is 0.706 and the strength is 0.8317. Now we need to change this to object, and this needs to be 1.1. So at the moment you can obviously see that that's not really very great, so we'll change that in a minute. So hide that, Alt to go up and down, Alt left click to go up and down, remember. Add modifier subsurf, hide that. Add modifier, apart from you need to send render levels down to 1. I need to add another modifier, displace. This one is display 2 as well. Well, it is display 2. Move up 0.5 and -0.3. Now this needs to be an object, and the object is 2.1. Add another displace. Display 3. And the strength is -0.2. The object is 3.1. So you can obviously see that that's not really great at the moment. So one of the easiest ways to change the scale is to, instead of being in the hypercurve editor, click on this here, this hypercurve editor icon, and change it to outliner. Now it shows all the different objects that we've got here. So first of all, click on 1.1 and scale it up a little bit, or scale it down. Scaling it up is what we want to do though. So if we move up here and select the column here and just turn these off by pressing this button here, turn all these off, and then press this one again and go back to 1.1 and scale it down a little bit to about, well, wherever looks about right, because we don't want it, because you can see how it kind of comes in the middle here, and that's because of our proportional editing that we did earlier, so that's a bit annoying, but just kind of make it quite about there. Now go to 2.2, and we also need to turn the displacement modifier on for subsurf, and the next displace, go to 2.2 and scale it up and down until, or up, that's a bit too far up, probably about there is what we want. Right click on this and click set smooth as well. You might also want to add another subsurf modifier, but that's up to you again. I want to scale this down a little bit as well, because otherwise it's going to be a bit too bumpy, which isn't what we want. And apply the final displace modifier. Click 3.1 and scale it up and down, and this is just like the final detail, so it doesn't really make a difference. wherever you put it. Now you can kind of see that that already looks kind of like an atomic bomb, but we also need to do the fireball, and that's the final part of the model. So go to view front, click add mesh UV sphere, 32 segments and 32 rings, and click OK. Bring it up and click S to about that size. And although obviously that's not the type of fireball we were talking about, we are going to use proportional editing again, but this time to make it kind of flatter. But first we need to click Alt and left click to move it up to about this part here, click Tab, and then right click on this ring, and then Alt right click until you get to this ring here. Then click Shift and right click in the center of this dot. So click View Front and change the proportional editing to on, and click G and kind of flatten it down like that. You need to make it quite big, otherwise it's just going to look a bit rubbish, but bring it in there, then click G and then bring it down to about there, and then bring it in again about there. Make sure you press Z and it'll actually lock it to the axis so you can only go up, which you should really have done. But move it to about there, and you might want to do the bottom, but for now that's going to be okay for me. So click Tab and then click Center Cursor and then click Center, move it up. And actually, because I've actually done this not very well, so I'm just gonna, you don't need to do this. I've basically just turned it over, so don't worry about that. You, instead of doing it from the top, you do it from the bottom and it'll look a lot better. So that's what we want. Okay. So we've got the fireball, but we want it to obviously animate and have that nice texture. Because if we have a look at that, all we've got is nice cloudy stuff, fireball, cloudy shockwave, and the fireball is just sitting there on its own. So go back to frame 400 and click I. Okay, so now we've got the shockwave in the column. We've got the fireball just sitting there on its own with no animation or texture or lumpy texture, cloudiness. So go to frame 400 and click I, Location and Scale. Then go to frame 100, not thousands, and then go down to the ground. If you click View Front, it's a bit easier. Oops. And make sure that that little pink dot is on the floor. And then click S0, enter I location scale. So you can see it coming up. Obviously, because of Blender, it automatically makes it go in a weird curve. So if you go into IPO Curve Editor again, and then click on X, Y, and Z using Shift, then click Tab, A, B, select this handle here, bring it up, so about there, and then go on the Z axis again and click Tab, A, B, select this handle, bring it up a little bit, maybe a little bit more. Now this time it does have to be quite accurate, otherwise you're going to get the column moving around everywhere and it won't look very good. So every 100 frame or something. See what it looks like. Maybe a little bit higher there. Just frame 100. Or 200 then. This is a little bit too high now, so G to about there. And I think that'll be okay for what we want to do. Now add another empty, and this is going to be called 4.2. So click add empty, Alt left click to bring it back up again, 4.2. Now this needs to go down a little bit, but also grow a little bit. So click, go to frame 100, and this needs to be, you need to click I, location scale, bring it down to about there, and then press S to scale it up to about that. Click. No, sorry, you need to go to 400 first, otherwise it's not going to actually do anything. Go down to there, S, scale it up a little bit, I, location scale. Now you need to click Tab on all of these. Tab A, B, select these handles here, bring it up a little bit, click A, B, select this handle, and then bring it to about there. And then the location needs to go a bit sharper as well, so click Tab, A, B, select this handle, bring it down to about there. Now we need to add another empty, and this one is going to be called 2.2, and it's going to use the same IPO curve as 4.2, which is that one. And then we need to make it a single user and change the size a little bit. So click Tab on the, no, it's wrong. Click on X, Shift Y, Shift Z, Tab A, B, select this, G, down a little bit, A, B, G, because you don't want it to go up and then go down again. You want it to go up and not go any higher anywhere. So that'll be okay. And then add another empty, call this one 3.2. This is going to be the same as 2.2. And 4.2, 2.2, 3.2 go in the same location, and they all go down at roughly the same speed. Or no, they go down at the same speed, and they all go roughly up in the same size. Now we need to add another displacement modifier to the Weibel. So go to add modified displace. The texture is Displa 1, the mid-level is 0.7, and the strength is -0.9. It kind of looks like a melted marshmallow or something. Now go to Object 4.2. So yeah, now it doesn't look like a melted marshmallow, it kind of looks like a well, it looks like an explosion or something. It's not what we want, so we will have to change that, don't worry. Hide that one then. Click Add Modifier Subsurf. That's all fine apart from render levels to 1. Add Modifier Displace. Change the mid-level to 0 and the strength to -0.1. And then the object to 2.2. Now that you need to change the texture to Displa 2, otherwise it's kind of pointless. And then we need to add another subsurf this time. and change the render levels to 1 again. Add another displacement modifier. Display 3. Mid-level is 0 and the strength is -0.1. Now it's getting a bit mad now. Change the texture coordinates to object, and the object is 3.2. Now open up the outliner again and select these ones, and we need to do the same thing as we did for the column and turn all these off so that we can see what's not quite right. So yeah, that's a bit too mad. So which one was that? That was 4.2. Maybe make that. So now if we open another window here, it's about there because we only need that much, and go to Hypercurve Editor and click on all these and click Tab A, B, select all of these. We can actually move all of these up and down, so it kind of looks a bit more how we would like it, because we don't want it to be too crazy, otherwise it's just not going to look all that good. We don't want it too little, otherwise you're not even going to have much effect, which again would be a bit pointless. So I mean, that's too much still. What we can also do is in this objects tab we can change the strength a little bit, so we might not want it that much, so increase it a little bit to about there. Up to you, however you think you would like the effect to be. So hide that one, add the subsurf, hide that one, add the displace on this one. Now this displace is for object 2.2. AB, select this one and this one. Bring it up a little bit. Maybe not. I don't know. You don't need to bring this one up, I don't think. That looks fine like it is. Now this might be too jaggedy for some people, so you might want to change the jaggediness by just moving it up and down, changing the settings here and stuff like that. The displace on this one, object 3.2. Maybe we'll just change the strength for this because it's going to take quite a while to explain everything. Or some people might even just prefer it with this displacement not even on, but I think that's just not enough. There's not enough effect in it without it. So you can set it smooth. View the front, and you can actually rotate this along the. So click RZ and rotate it to a point where you want it if you want. But you will also need to rotate the empties as well. But I'm not going to bother with all that. So we can do that with the camera. So I think that looks okay. Now we need to add the materials. So go into the material tab, bring it up again, and to zoom out, click. Oh, how do we zoom out? I've forgotten how to zoom out. How do we zoom out of this? Hold Control and use the scroll wheel. That's because I was zoomed out as far as I could go, I think. So add a texture on the shading tab, add new, and this texture needs to be kind of a dark, kind of green. But I'm just going to show you how to do it with these this selection here. So click point, red is 0.461, green is 0.461 as well, and blue is 0.412. So it's kind of a grey, greeny sort of colour, grey, greeny yellow, more of a yellow. So this is where it gets a bit complicated, because there's a lot of buttons we need to press and a lot of buttons that we need to turn off, a lot of things we need to rename. So click on material and call this one Fireball, like that. Now we need to go into the shaders tab and change the ref to 0.686 and the rough to, you need to change this to orange, so change the rough to 1.04, turn cubic on and put the speculation to 0. So that kind of changes it so that you can't see the shininess of it. Now the kind of texture and the fire. So click add new texture, go into the texture tab and click texture. Change this to fire. Now I need to change the texture type to a blend texture. Oops, blend texture. Now change it to sphere, so you kind of see a spherical colour and stuff. Let's bring this up a little bit because it's too... I think I must have pulled it down. It looks really weird. So yeah, go into colours and we need to click colour band, change the alpha to 1, the brightness to 0.997, the contrast to 0.992, the red, oh no, this, yeah, we need to change this one here to move it to about there and change it to a sort of yellowy, bright yellow. Bit kind of, well, maybe pale yellow, about there. Now add another one and move it to about there, and this one is a bright orange. About there. Oh, for some reason this one went off. So you can see how that's nice fiery sort of texture. We also need to change this linear to B-spline, so it looks like that. We also need to add a lamp, so click add lamp, move it to about the centre of the fireball, and we need to change the settings of the lamp under the lamp buttons. So make sure it's on lamp, sphere, change the colour to red 1, green is 0.856 and the blue is 0.342. So kind of orangey yellow. We also need to change the distance to 10. Then, so you can kind of see where that's how much of the you're going to actually see is a nice glowy orangey yellow. We also need to call this the Fireball L. Fireball L. And then we also need to go and change the lamp's object name to Fireball L. So there we are. And then we can right click on the fireball again and go into the material tab and change the object to Fireball L. Click map to and make sure it's on emit, map input and make sure it's on sphere. We also need to make little halos which are kind of kind of a bit like lamps, but it's the, well, it's not really, it's kind of the it's a glowing object, kind of. It's not really, but you'll probably understand once I show you more about it. So click on the put the 3D cursor inside the shockwave cloud, which it already is in, and now we need to add a spotlight. So click add lamp spot. Now we can add a constraint that will make it always point towards the camera. So click on the object tab and click add constraint to track to, and track it to the object camera. And that's all we need to do, and you'll see that it is always pointing towards the camera, which it's not. What's the name of that camera? Yeah, it should be. For some reason it's not. Oh yeah, we need to change it so that it's along the x-axis and aligned to the minus z-axis. There we are. That's a bit better. The settings for this lamp are if we go into the lamp settings, change the colour to red 1, green 0.904 and blue 0.517. You can kind of see a nice dark yellow. So click no diffuse and no specular. Click lin quad weighted. Change the linear to 0.208 and the quad to 0.327. Change it to halo and turn off buffer shadow. And the spot size is 96.32 and the spot softness is 0.3866. Now, what else do we need to do? I think that's it. The distance is 10.75, but we can change that depending on how big we want the radius of the initial, what do we call it? The glow before the explosion. But we can set that. We can set that now. So if you click View Top and right click on the camera and click G, pull it out to about there, and then click Alt R, and that clears the rotation, so it just points downwards. And then click RY90, and then RX90. If you go into 3D view on this one and click View Camera, you can see what it looks like. So click G, you can move it to the middle there, and click View Top, and move it even further away. And G to move it back to about there. So that's the size of the initial explosion. So I didn't make it very big in my original video, so it didn't look all that great. So if you want to put the distance up, just kind of put it to about there, and that's where the initial explosion will be. So maybe move the camera more center of that initial explosion, or the energy release. So that's about right. Now we can actually animate the size of this. So if you click back here and click IPO Curve Editor and click on the halo spot thing, and I'm actually not sure how you animate a spot size, or how you add a spot size. So if you click on this object tab here and click lamp. Now you can see spot size, but I can't find any way of actually applying it. So the only way I found was clicking on spot size and then click curve, record mouse movement, still, and then clicking, and you can see a curve come up, the line come up. And then if you right click on that line and then move down a little bit, click G and move that to about just before 100, between 80 and 100, but well 90, and then click tab, right click on this and click marker, duplicate marker, point, duplicate point, and you can see a new one pop up, and move that to 100 but much higher. So I'm not sure what size we want that. We do want it quite high, so I'd actually say about 100. No, I think we need it at about, hang on, let me just, well we can have a look. So we see what this looks like. We see that's not big at all, so we can have a look. Is that big enough? We look at the camera. Okay, so put this at about 140 and click point, duplicate, and go down to 180, which is about there on 0, and then click A, tab, click curve in interpolation mode, Bezier, tab, and then you have all the handles back. And see how this all works. Oops. Okay, so, no, I think it's frozen. Yeah, bring up these and kind of just make it so it's curved in then curves down again, so you can spend time on that if you want. I'm not going to bother, but that is it. So you have now created an atomic bomb in Blender. Apart from, there's actually a few things we have forgotten to do. Click on the shockwave and change it to fireball, and then right click on the cylinder and, well, the column, click fireball. There's a few things we can do, like adding a texture to this plane. If you want to, you can. I'm not going to do that, but if you want to do that, you can now also duplicate this plane and create a background, or you can just create a background with the worlds tabs. But that's basically it. So hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It took me quite a long time, so hopefully you enjoyed it. So yeah, thanks for watching and goodbye.